The most exciting thing about being a YouTuber is I get to experience things and learn about things that I wouldn't have otherwise. For years in my hometown of Monroe, Michigan, there was a transmission shop on Monroe Street. It still has a little peace sign on the side of its sign. No idea what it meant. Well, come to find out, there it is. It's Kendall Motor Oil. That was part of their charm. It wasn't really advertised to the public. It's more of a what's behind the counter sort of product. As that generation of racers moved on, we were left in the dark. That's one of the interesting parts about the automotive industry is not everything that's marketed is necessarily the best product for you. Kendall reached out to me about covering their custom twin-turbo Mustang that I'll show you throughout the rest of this video. There's a couple cool tie-ins to that as well. I asked them, I'm like, do you make a product for a race engine like this? And sure enough, they're like, yeah, we do. What's so important about this is that it says boosted zinc. Do your research, you'll see that the additives are exactly what's needed to break a motor in like that. And that's why what you saw when we had the engine up on the stand, this is exactly what we used. The higher amount of zinc, it's called ZDDP if you're looking for the more technical term, zinc and phosphorus, that additive package is in this product. While they wanted me to cover more about the car, I'm interested in the science behind the products they sell. This is something that you can request, you can order online. Awareness is key. If you're in the market for racing oil particularly, they do all types of oil, but in my case it was racing oil. This is a pretty awesome product. Kendall flew me and Jarrett out to Colorado to check out a custom, ground-up build. From the chassis up, they built a 1967 Shelby GT500 with a new Coyote motor, twin turbo by Garrett. As a side note, for those of you wondering about this car, after we go for the engine dyno and make as much power as we're comfortably allowed to make, we're tearing that engine down and we're going to be taking a look at the bearings, all of the different fittings, the engine health in general. So we'll see cause and effect, what works and what doesn't. I'm Rob Dahm, as you guys know, but I'm here with two fellow Robs, and these guys have awesome names as well, but they're both Thompson. Yep. Whereas I'm Dahm. But just to introduce these guys, these are the minds behind and really the work behind making this project come to life.
Yeah, I'm Rob, or Cope, Thompson Street Customs. Yeah, we pretty much came up with the ideas. We didn't do all the work. It takes a big team of us all to do it, so it's not just us.
I'm Robert Sr. I'm the owner of the company. Just built some badass cars.
This might not be the traditional content that you see on this channel. Normally it's Rotary, normally it's anti-Corvette and all of that. But we got invited out to Colorado to take a look at this. A 1967 Ford Mustang with a Coyote motor and twin turbo. It took a little bit this morning to stomach the idea of standing next to a piston engine, but this is not an LS. Normally it's the easy route to go. It's very small packaging. The overhead valves on a LS make it smaller, a little bit older school, but clearly LS makes a lot of power. This is a new 5-liter Coyote motor, and as you can see, there's a lot of top heaviness. That's just the very first thing I noticed is that you got overhead cams, kind of like when you see the 2JZ, but it's got the two dual overhead cam gears, except on both sides. I don't think this thing would fit in an RX-7, but what makes it so special to me is the fact that they've got twin G25 Garrett turbos. In this case, each turbo runs off of each bank, each side of the engine. So 4 cylinders power one turbo, and then the other 4 power the other. Normal scroll and reverse. So what happens is you get the same look because you can't mirror it. If you took this turbo and put it on the other side, it would be pointing this way. The exhaust would be coming out that way, and then now you have kind of opposite directions. In this case, Garrett makes turbos that go opposite directions, and so you get this nice mirrored look. So when you pop open this engine bay, it's symmetrical, and that's something that is just so pretty to me. Let's take a look at what this build is all about. This is something that, again, totally different build philosophy, but fascinating to me. I appreciate this because if you saw this car at SEMA or at some show, it's going to be all painted, it's going to look perfect. That almost ruins the amount of work that goes into it because you see, oh yeah, anybody can paint a car that looks good on camera, but when you look at it up close and you see these details, I personally have a lot more appreciation for that.
If I can pull these out, I can put less Bondo on there.
Yeah.
If I can fill it with metal, I can put less Bondo on there. Less chance of it cracking later on when it's been under stress. But you see how this goes flat and then dips down here?
Yeah.
I got to see if there's something I can do there. So that'll be an area that I'll concentrate. And before I ever touch the car with mud, I'll go through and check all these spots, take care of them as well as I can. It's like a stepped process. You can't begin the next one until you get this one complete. If you miss something, you got to take care of it at that point. You can't just put it off because that's when the imperfections really start showing towards the end of the build.
This is all made out of metal, and so he's popping and pulling and using heat and contracting, expanding metal to make the base piece work properly. This isn't carbon fiber, this isn't Bondo. Of course they'll skim it after it's all done, but they're actually fixing the metal to make it do exactly what they want. That to me is just artistry. That is not, it is a science, but there's really more of an art, that you make this metal behave how you want it to. Well, underneath the car is one of the coolest facts to this thing. You see a lot of the fabrication for the suspension mounts, the control arms, everything is modern, old school muscle style, but modern fabrication. Something that's not on my build yet is the anti-sway bar. They've already got it up here front and center, and that's of course to control the amount of sway or anti-sway from tire to tire, that when you lean it brings the body kind of back down. One of the first things I noticed was the radiator. It looks almost like an intercooler, that it's right up there front and center, but it looks so much like our Corvettes because it's got so many tabs and so many things welded into it. The reason for that is those turbos are both water cooled. So they're the baby turbos that have coolant going in, coolant going out. And the radiator has to accept something, you know, cool side, hot side. There's gonna be a lot of routing for that, at least tucked in underneath probably all the fanciness, but they still have to be cooled. So there's a lot of fittings and inlets and outlets, and in-go, out-go, all throughout the radiator. Again, that blows my mind that motors like this rarely ever have oil coolers. They do have a massive oil pan. In this case, that is probably the oldest looking part of this whole build, is a traditional oil pan. Fits a lot of oil, so it has time to cool, as well as the way the motor works. The piston engine, the oil doesn't see as much of the heat, doesn't absorb as much of the heat as a rotary. That's why rotaries require oil coolers, where, as we found out on the Corvette, pistons normally don't. They're doing all the body work out of metal. You know, you'll hear people say tinning it out, lead, there's lead filler, all that sort of stuff, which is funny because there's a Lincoln Continental up there, and that's the first thing I noticed when I was getting all the paint off of it, was that there's sections of lead, it's softer metal. You start scraping it, it comes off way quicker. The 4-rotor was supposed to be a metal body, that we were gonna take the body and do a lot of metal work, pull it, blend it, but you know me, I am accident prone, and we want to beat the crap out of that car. We scrapped the idea of metal work, but it's neat to see this metal work being done, well, on another vehicle. I'm familiar with the EcoBoost. The Coyote doesn't have direct injection. Am I correct in that?
Yeah, no, it's a port injection.
Okay, yeah. So you have at least a little bit more freedom on adjusting that.
Well, you have freedom on fuel adjustment, but you also have quite a bit of freedom on the ECU side. So they are very tunable.
Yeah.
And they do make killer power. We have a S197, so like a 2012, and he put down like 855 or 860 stock everything. Literally just turbos. And his clutch died pretty quick, but I mean, it was straight up just stock car.
Yeah.
And it made killer power. There's a lot of power to be made on these, and the computer is very tunable. So it is a very tuner friendly car.
Really, the stock ECUs are really tunable.
Yeah, they'll make big power. You can make 1,000 wheel horsepower on those stock ECU.
Whoa.
I mean, you move to a Holley system the Holley system's a lot better, you know, because you do have a lot more freedom. But the factory Coyote computer is a fantastic computer. They make really good power.
That's amazing. I did not know that. I'm so used to aftermarket standalones and all that.
Well, yeah, with Rotary, you there's no options. You literally have to go with something that's aftermarket. What do you run on yours?
Adaptronic.
Okay.
And so they're bought out by Haltech now.
Yeah,
but
yeah, the Haltech stuff's really nice. The Motex on Rotary is where it's at, but you're talking big money on those.
Yeah. And you said how high does a Coyote stock go to where you would start replacing things before you would push it further?
Really, like 850 wheel is like limit on the early ones, and then like 950 to 1,000 on the newer ones.
Okay.
So they really are. It's a mod-friendly engine.
Yeah.
I mean, they make fantastic power, and they will take abuse all day long.
That's amazing.
You put the cooler right in front, right?
Yeah. So the intercooler is going to go in the front. We're going to do it top to bottom. So what we'll do is we'll enter charge pipes through the speed holes right here. We'll wrap them around. They'll go to the bottom. They'll come up. We're going to probably have to trim this out, I think, maybe. Yeah, maybe not. They'll do a standard 3-inch charge pipe up through here. Probably up and around. Maybe I might have to do another speed hole over here underneath the chassis. Come up and go. So yeah, that'll fit pretty good. It's definitely big enough to support like 1,500 horsepower.
So 1,300 horsepower to 1,500 horsepower now.
Support.
Can do it.
Yeah,
It'll do it
Probably
once.
should.
The interior is just nuts to me. What's the story on? You guys did this?
Yeah, so it's all completely all hand fabricated, nothing. So basically when we started doing everything to this car, it just evolved into a much bigger project.
Yeah.
Once we did the turbos and we did everything, you have all this super cool stuff on the outside and in the motor, and then your interior be stock. You kind of,
Yeah, can't do that.
that's where you run out of money.
Is there any of this that's original?
Nope. We completely cut
You-
the entire dashboard out. So everything else on there. Well, once we got the transmission tunnel in,
Yeah.
we were like, holy shit, that's massive.
It's huge.
Yeah, so we had to do something that kind of hit all that.
Yeah.
You know, and just doing something that was kind of standard wasn't really cool. So we wanted to do something that modernized the car. You know, the shifter and everything that comes with the Coyote
Yeah.
will fit in here, and everything kind of goes in there. We wanted to bring a real modern aspect to where, you know, all the modern new cars, the information's all up top.
Oh, but you did
Compared
it the
to
way
being
it
down
looks.
here.
Yeah.
So the way we did it, it kind of mimics more of a European style, I think. And
It's still got like a hint of retro
Yeah.
while looking modern with that.
it does.
Yeah.
And the cool thing about it is, like underneath here, everything will kind of be open, I believe. We wanted it to kind of give you that cockpit feel,
Oh, it definitely
you know, because with the transmission tunnel being up this real tall, it kind of reminded me of the all-wheel drive cars.
Yep.
So you sort of sit low into it, you know, and you got that big tunnel and drive shaft, everything's, you know, up high. So we wanted it to sort of have that same feel. Once I got in the car, I was like, I want it to feel like
Yeah.
you're about to go for a ride,
It-
you know, so.
Yeah. So that was you that designed it? Yeah, okay.
Yeah, we drew it all up. And the design's changed,
Yeah, it's
you
got
know.
organically
From the
growth.
original design, this car don't look nothing like it.
Yeah.
Which is cool,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah,
It
it's-
took-
We just got to do a lot of tweaking on the front bumper. We got to get all our gaps right. We just got to, there's a lot to do.
Yeah, that's why we're here long nights, you know, when it
Yeah.
comes time to doing certain things, you know, you do have to be in the right
probably got
mindset.
over 80 hours in that front bumper.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
it's just, and it's still not done.
See this seam from here to here? The stock car came like that, where there were two panels, and so they'll actually put lead in here. Like that was the old way of solving Bondo before Bondo was really a big thing. Is that they'll lead it out. Ultimately, it's, you know, one. It looks like one big panel before you paint it, but it'll be a nice soft metal. As I learned when I went and used I used way too hard of abrasive when I was taking all the paint off of the Lincoln and ground down all the lead. Probably gave myself enough lead poisoning for my lifetime. Blows my mind that this was originally, and still is to me, and at least the skin, the outside of it is still a GT500. It's one of the rare times I've seen, well, two in person.